Hi, Namala, how are you going? You hear me? Hi, Namala.
Thank you. Hearing you loud and clear. Welcome.
Okay, thanks. All right, cool.
So we are on standby for others to join us. And I'm just going to place my mic on mute a bit. But first, enjoy this as we wait.
Social progress is the idea that societies can or do improve in terms of their social, political, and economic structures. This may happen as a result of direct human action, as in social enterprise or through activism, or as a natural part of sociocultural evolution. The concept of social progress was introduced in the early 19th century social theories, especially social evolution as described by Auguste Comte and Herbert Spencer. It was present in the Enlightenment's philosophies of history. As a goal, social progress has been advocated by varying realms of political ideologies with different theories on how it is to be achieved. The big breakthrough to a new idea in Europe was the Enlightenment, when social commentators and philosophers began to realize that people themselves could change society and change their way of life. Instead of being made completely by gods, there was increasing room for the idea that people themselves made their own society, and not only that, as Giambattista Vico argued, because people practically made their own society, they could also fully comprehend it. This gave rise to new sciences, or proto-sciences, which claimed to provide new scientific knowledge about what society was like, and how one may change it for the better. In turn, this gave rise to progressive opinion, in contrast with conservational opinion. The social conservationists were skeptical about panaceas for social ills. According to conservatives, attempts to radically remake society normally make things worse. Edmund Burke was the leading exponent of this, although later-day liberals like Hayek have espoused similar views. They argue that society changes organically and naturally, and that grand plans for the remaking of society, like the French Revolution, National Socialism and Communism, hurt society by removing the traditional constraints on the exercise of power. This new idea implied a new concept of human freedom, that is, people independently making their own lives using their own judgment. Initially, this concept appeared rather paradoxical. Thus, Jean-Jacques Rousseau wrote, "People are born free, but are everywhere in chains." A big breakthrough was the French Revolution of 1789, which inspired a lot of new philosophical thought. In the philosophy of the German thinker Hegel, history radically recasts itself as the continual development of humanity towards ever greater freedom, continually extending the limits of freedom. This philosophy is still religious and mystical, however, insofar as Hegel sees history as culminating.
With the use of a cell phone, I was able to create the most officially selected film in the history of the Caribbean. All right, 31 official selections worldwide, 2 awards in India and 1 in Trinidad and Tobago. Right, I'm a theater and film producer, director, actor, international voiceover artist, and most importantly, a social entrepreneur. And for 2014 to 2015, I was the Commonwealth Youth Worker of the Year for the Caribbean region, but the only social entrepreneur, right? And that we will discuss a little further. So without any further ado, again, I want to say thank you for your time. I just going to share with you a little bit about what we do. We have a program called Transformation Through Theater and Technology. And basically, what we did with that program is use theater, the arts, film, and couple it with technology for a lot of at-risk youth. So children and youth that were on multiple suspensions, we targeted them and we had them in a huge camp. And basically, we use those forms of entertainment to basically change behavior. Now, one of the things that we notice is that when the children go back into the environment in which they live, right, they would come back out and we'd kind of have to work on it all over again. So that program then started to extend to vulnerable communities. And then we decided that if it is we get these children from a younger age, right, then we wouldn't have to meet them up in the transformation through theater and technology program. Also, the problem was that the kids that weren't in the program, they were never exposed to the information. They were never exposed to the content. So we created Theater for Tots to Teens and Youth Reboot. Theater for Tots to Teens tackled the younger children, and Youth Reboot the adolescents, right? And basically share stories in the formats that they are very unclear with. So if you look right now on the internet, the way that we have information, right? TikTok now is just a minute. So children, attention span is shortening and shortening and shortening. Now you have to keep up with that content. And during COVID-19, when I'm gonna get this logo change soon because of the COVID-19, I wasn't able to work with a regular graphic artist. But what we did, because we couldn't meet as actors in a space, we couldn't do theater, we couldn't do film, what I started doing was doing voiceover classes and now taking those students and doing voiceover classes, and I did a Trini Bible story series. So basically, we took the stories of the Bible and we did it in our Trinidad and Tobago vernacular, right? And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a little while. So if you can get it.
Ian, thanks for sharing the warm words of introduction and a bit about the fantastic work that you're doing at Stephen Edwards Production. Kudos, keep it up. Wonderful work that's touching the lives and making a difference for our youths and the constituents that you serve. Stephen, before moving on, and we were discussing in preparation for this webinar, some thoughts about social entrepreneurship, social enterprise. And
yes,
you were telling me that there were some misconceptions that around there. And for the inaugural webinar, it was a good start for us to put this in perspective.
yes.
Tell me, what do you see as a social problem? What do you see as a social enterprise? How is it different from the commercial enterprise? And how do you define a social entrepreneur? What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, well, that's a really good question. And today my hope is that persons really, even business persons, really consider becoming social entrepreneurs. And a social issue or a social problem, right, is something that influences a considerable number of persons in society. So for instance, you have communities. And when I say communities, it doesn't just mean a physical group of people. You can have communities as battered wives, right? Or battered women, or you have communities of single fathers, right? Those are a community, and it's not the problems that are affecting that particular community, right, is not necessarily to a physical geographic location. So when we talk about a social problem is one that affects a large community, right, that have these problems in common, yeah? So that's one of the things that I would like to say. And a social enterprise is an organization or initiative that marries a social mission of a nonprofit with that of a market-driven business. Now, that's really, really important, because if we look around the world today, you're going to see a lot of changes happening. The way people spend money, the way people look at different social issues. No longer people trust the governments. People are very skeptical about the media. And that is where a huge upsurge in social enterprises you're going to be seeing more and more social enterprises, because companies, for instance, there's a company in Argentina called Zinca, right? They have taken tires that have been thrown away and start making sneakers with it. And they are now only hiring single mothers to work in their manufacturing. So they target single mothers to work in their manufacturing. And they are getting a lot of support from governments and persons now purchasing the shoes based upon the social value that it brings. It helps clean the environment, and it also helps, with the difficulty of being a single mother. So social entrepreneurship is taking an evolution at this point in time in that we are seeing in the world. So I like to kind of, if you could give me the next slide, please, no matter. All right, thanks. Right, I like to kind of do an illustration of what's an entrepreneur versus a social entrepreneur. So for those of you all who like comics and who follow comics, right, an entrepreneur is like Bruce Wayne, right, and a social entrepreneur is like Batman. So Bruce Wayne does business in Gotham all the time, right? But he could be easily replaced because what he does in business doesn't solve the problems of Gotham. Whereas Batman has to have not just the facilities that Bruce Wayne has, but he has to come up with methods to keep Gotham safe. And so when we often think that, a social entrepreneur, somebody who is doing business is just somebody who volunteering their time to do a part-time thing. But it's a myth that social entrepreneurs don't do the same amount of work than regular entrepreneurs do. We actually have to do more because we have access to very much less resources, and we have to be very innovative in getting results. Yeah. So we want to talk about 3 myths of the social entrepreneurship. Right? And one of the myths is that what I do doesn't make a difference. The other one is that I have taken a vow of poverty and condemned myself to a substandard life. Right? Many people think that, well, if I'm doing good, then, I am going to be poor. Right? And the third thing is I can do this part-time or halfway and still be effective. Right? So we're going to take the first point first, please. Excuse me. Myth 1, we have to think bigger. If you look around the world right now, right, and we see what is happening in the United States of America, we see what is happening in the COVID-19, everybody are looking for answers. The problem is that many times that they don't know where the solution is coming from, all right? We're in the midst of a COVID pandemic. Right? Now, we have so many persons who are social entrepreneurs in the industry of health. So things like, different herbs and that kind of stuff that you can take to increase your resistance. That kind of information should be coming out from the social entrepreneur, but we're not hearing anything. All right? How to protect myself, right? Yes, we have the WHO and we have the medical experts, but there are certain remedies that we used to call home remedies long time. And when you get fever grass tea and all that kind of stuff. Those things have disappeared. And we no longer hear that. We no longer hear about them. But those herbs and those different medicines still are very applicable today. You heard a lot in Indian and Chinese medicines, right? And we are not hearing from the social entrepreneur, how we could protect ourselves because we don't know where to go. So whatever answers are left or what is in the media, all right, or whoever have interest in the pharmaceutical companies, right? For instance, right now, there was a test for COVID being developed in Sudan, right? For just like $1, but $1 US, but you won't hear about it. And these are the kind of things that as social entrepreneurs, we need to start bringing to the forefront. We can be healthier, right? If it is we are better prepared, if we change our eating habits, but that information must come from us. So the thing is, we have to have someone, Can't hear? Oh, okay. Everyone hearing? Could you give me Normal, are you hearing me well?
Yes, I am.
Okay, great. Okay, so we need to have a larger vision, right, to make our voices heard and touch the hearts of those who we service. As social entrepreneurs, if you bring real change, for instance, one of the programs we do is in the BTM community, right? I could go into the BTM anytime, any time of the day or night. I could walk into the BTM, and everybody would like, Mr. Edwards, when you're having the next program again? You know why? Because after we did the program there, persons were able to find jobs. And those are the kind of changes that when you make a long lasting change like that, right? People become loyal to you. They want to hear what you have to say. They want to hear what type of program you're having again. And in the next 5 years, people are going to be turned into social, and not the big business, not the politicians, not even the media. People are going to be turned into the persons who are bringing them results for answers. And you need to start positioning yourself to be that person that people coming to for answers. Yeah. So the other thing is, if you could give me the next slide, is that you know we we condemn ourselves to poverty as social entrepreneurs. Now, I want you to take a look at some of those NGOs on the screen. You know the Salvation Army that rings the bell, and we must put in a little 25 cents, or we might pass them straight, or we might donate a jacket. The Salvation Army brings in $3.6 million in revenue. That's a non-profit organization. That's an NGO. The NCAA, which is, I think, is the National College Athletic Association, $1 billion in revenue. FIFA is an NGO, 4.6. All FIFA does is just regulate football. That's what it does, right? Again, coming back to the last point I was making, if you have a bigger vision for yourself, right, then you can now generate more income. I don't have a problem in people being paid for doing a good job. So if I am doing great work, for instance, don't we pay the commissioner of police? Yes, his job is to make sure that we are protected and served. If I am doing crime prevention, which is causing a crime to not occur, right? So I'm making less work for him. Should I not, if I'm doing a good job, be paid? We pay people in this country and in this region. Generally, we pay them when they do a bad job. If I'm doing good and I'm doing a good job at it, I deserve to be paid. And I think that is something that you should start thinking about as well. You deserve to be paid for doing good work. So success is directly related to your proportion of service. Right? Earl Nightingale always says that the more people that you serve is the more successful you become. The more successful you become is the more funds can be generated, right? And so let us say funding follows success and it's not the other way around. It cannot be that you have a PR machine so that persons who do stuff. You see NGOs come up and they come up in the papers and they do a one and done, but they are not servicing a community. The community cannot vouch for them. Then you have lost influence, then you have lost impact, and nobody really wants to be a part, right? It cannot be a PR exercise. And the third myth I want to address is that this is a part-time pastime. People say, well, I just volunteer in my time, so I'm doing this part-time. Listen, if you're running a soup kitchen, just a simple soup kitchen, right? You have to buy that food, prepare that food in the morning. When the person's finished eat, you have to clear the place, wash the wares, prepare the meals for lunchtime. After that, again, you have to prepare for dinner, and then prepare again for the next day. That's a full-time job. Whatever you are doing when it comes to social entrepreneurship, no longer it's a thing where people could do, come into volunteer the time to do service. It's not like that. It's not like that. The evil of this world works full time. You see, when them boys and them planning on the corner to rob somebody, they're planning or to put on a walk whole day. And so I have to plan whole day, right? To make sure that the programs and the projects that I bring to affect their lives are effective. So persons are always of the opinion that is something that you can do part-time. It's not, right? You need to understand that as a social enterprise, you have less resources than a regular one does. You can have greater impact, but you have less resources, right? And don't get it too different. Don't get it too twisted, right? But this is a necessary full-time job for which people can be employed. Beneficiaries of service, most important. When you are working in a community, whatever your community is, whether it's persons for health, whether it's persons, that are impoverished, you must service your community. And you cannot switch one feeling system for another. You can't give somebody a burnt bread and then give them a half-baked one instead and take away the burnt bread that they have, right? And then give them a half-baked one and say, look, eat. No, that's not gonna happen, right? So I just wanted to, demystify, and break up some of those myths that people think of when you think about social enterprises.
Yes,
Yeah.
thanks so much. I mean, it's a good start for us to put in context as social entrepreneurs, really who we are, what we're all about, what business we're in. And thanks for sharing that foundation. But Stephen, we're in COVID-19, we're in the new normal world. And tell me from your perspective, from Stephen Edwards Productions, how as a social entrepreneur, in charge of a social enterprise or social enterprises, as we've seen, what's the future or what is it looking like for you as a social entrepreneur? Tell me about your experience so far as a social progress champion.
Well, it's challenging. I will not lie, it's challenging. But as with every challenge, there's always opportunities, right? So as I said before, right now I have a television series that I was working on that has to be halted because we can't have the actors in one place. But now I have time to write. You understand? So now I'm writing a movie. I'm writing a podcast. Excuse me. And I just had voice classes, which I'm now able to take those persons from that voice class and create a podcast. The same Trinity Bible podcast that I was talking about earlier, right? Nalis has now taken it up and they're using it in their prison program. But that would not have happened had I not had the time to do it in the COVID time, had I not taken the time to now prepare persons, right? And that idea started a long time ago when I was doing a program in Pinto. So you see how, in the midst of everything, you always have, yes, you would have challenges. Nobody's saying, income, yes, we've really been taking a hit from the COVID where persons don't have the kind of income that they would have normally put into the grants, right? But the thing about it is that there are now new COVID grants coming up that didn't exist without COVID, if you understand what I'm saying. So I would suggest, for persons in this COVID time to take some time and, put your house in order. Make sure your organization is registered. Make sure your reports are kept, right, and available, right? And whatever reports, whether your financial reports, your annual reports, those are the things that when you're running an NGO, many times you're the chief cook and bottle washer. So many times you don't have the time to do those things. But this is a wonderful time to get yourself prepared. When rain is not falling, everybody can't, or people will always be staring up in the sky with their cup in their hand waiting for rain to fall. As a social entrepreneur, you don't have that luxury, right? When rain is not falling, you have to go and build a dam so that when rain starts falling again and people's cups are filled, they drank it and they need more water, they will be able to come to you. And that's a mentality you have to have as a social entrepreneur. You can't just say, well, things are rough and, there's nothing that we could do. No, you have your accounts to get done. Photos and videos are archived. You know, make sure that you have photos and videos. And at this point in time, I want to introduce a good friend of mine all the way from India, from Manu, as a guy that I met, right, who used to edit my videos, right? And that's that. So a big part of what we do is making sure that our videos and our photos are up to date. You know, if you ask me, you know, from the blink of a hat, I could just send you a link, right? And say, all right, this is who I am, this is what I'm about. As a social enterprise, you need to have those things. Make sure your accomplishments are recorded and publicized, because people want to know that when they give money to something, it comes to are good. You know, what has that money accomplished? Okay, I've given this donation to sing. Okay, great. I'm seeing where my money is. I feel good, and I feel encouraged to give more money when that time comes. There must be a written policy and procedure for your organization. That is very important. I cannot stress that enough. There must be a written policy and process. When you join Steve Edwards Productions, you get a code of conduct, right? And you get a procedure and policy document. So you know how the organization operates, you know how the organization runs. That is very important. Your implementation plan is to be drawn up and revised, all right? I am sure if you had an implementation plan at the beginning of the year, it didn't have COVID in it. So one of those things that you need to do is constantly revise and research an implementation plan. Make use of ICTs. Right now, you're listening to our webinar, right? We might have had to beg people to listen to webinars because they were so busy before. You couldn't get people to do any kind of online training online. But now, hey, you're here, right? So make use of ICTs, because a lot of the infrastructure is free. Facebook is free. You know, different things are free and available for you to use. The good news is that everybody's online and looking for content. The bad news is everybody's online and looking for content. So that competition, you have to now make a niche for yourself. And you know, I really want to encourage the Social Progress Institute because of that. You know, there are so many webinars that were out, but they targeted social entrepreneurs. And that's the way that you kind of make a niche for yourself, right? And constant research and development for funding and new techniques and alien alliances, sorry. And that's kind of like why I mentioned Vimanu. Vimanu is listening. I don't know what time it is in India right now, but we were talking, it was 8:30 in the morning, and it was 11 o'clock here. Now, when I give Vimanu work to edit, right, I go and sleep, but Vimanu working during the day. And when I wake up, the work is done. The world is changing, and you need to start putting that research that is out, you know, I mean, to understand how to leverage the position that you're in. Now, speaking about the position that you're in, unique opportunity specific to the Caribbean for COVID-19, right? We have done a great job at handling the pandemic, and there are many opportunities that can arise from that, right? Could you go back to the next slide? Yes, that's right. Especially like in tourism and entertainment, right? I would have liked to go to France. I would have liked to go to Italy. I was planning to do that. Paddy, I am not going to France or Italy in the near future, right? This is a great time for the Caribbean to now advertise themselves as a COVID-free destination. You understand? People are very afraid of going out there now and you know what I mean, and catching something. Now we could boast that we COVID free, right? The last point, just one more point, right? And there's a drop in prices of a lot of goods and services, right? Opportunities for international funding. Now Trinidad is unique because Trinidad moved from developing to developed status. So a lot of international funding that was available for us, right, has been cut out, right? Now, because of COVID-19, there are now international funding that is available that wasn't there before. Another thing is that right here, right now, we have persons from all over the Caribbean. So it would be nice to partner with somebody from another Caribbean country to do a project. These are all different things that we have that are now available to us and unique to us in the Caribbean. The borders will be open, especially to go from Caribbean to Caribbean countries. So those are just some of the ideas and opportunities that we have specific to us during the COVID time. Um, I think Namala. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, from what you're saying, I gonna like for as with all entrepreneurs, but more so for social entrepreneurs, for us to use this time to seize the opportunities and don't just focus on the challenges. Yes, everyone, their businesses are coming to a halt or have come to a halt, but use it as a time to introspect, to do your institutional strengthening abilities, but as well look at the opportunities that are presenting itself within the Caribbean environment, and as well infusing it with ICT. Before we move, there's a question from Mrs. Khan, Ms. Maya Khan. I wish to invite her to unmute her mic and to pose a question.
Yeah, Maya.
Maya?
All right, I guess Maya's not there. Oh, if when you tell me it's 11 p.m. here.
Hello.
I mean,
hi. Sorry, Stephen.
Yes, hi.
Okay,
yes, Maya. Yes, good.
Hi,
Can
Maya.
you hear
How
me
are you
there?
doing? Yes, I'm hearing you.
Well, good afternoon, first of all.
Good afternoon. How are you going?
Yeah, not too bad. Well, tell you what, I am new to this forum. I'm invited by a colleague, Neil Prasad,
Okay.
who has a connection to Mrs. Maharaj, and then that was sent on to me.
Right.
Just to share my little bit here. First of all, it's perhaps the first time I've come across the idea of sort of social entrepreneurship, because I've always worked purely in a private sector environment, heavily revenue driven, where it's sort of a corporate stance on things.
Yeah.
So it's product to be sold, revenues to be made. That's it, right? With our company at the moment, we are a very private sector company, but it's always occurred to me that we do need to find a way to help the community, or to be able to be part of a community process.
Right.
And we struggle to make that connection. And I think, like I said, it's the first time I've been in one of these. And immediately when you started to speak, I started to see the value of a social business and the impact and what it does for society, not for the revenue line itself of a business.
Yeah.
And you were right when you made that comparison of Batman versus the common corporate man in a suit. There are many like him that will come and go.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what Batman does that sticks for a while.
Yeah.
Sticks for a long time. So I'd be interested in perhaps gathering some ideas from you, given the fact that we are purely a private sector mindset, how we can perhaps integrate or make our focus shift a bit to the social side of things. What are some?
And you see well, I mean, we could always talk after, because I plan to have like a database after, but like I'll give you a simple example, right? One of the things that we do is that we use a lot of crime prevention methods. So let's say, for instance, you have a business in Mova Laventil, right? And we normally may have persons that might be in the area that, let's say, right, that might be found in some illegal activities. That's costing you as a business a lot of money in losses and security, right? Now, if you had a program inside of the area where you would educate, you would train these people to basically do some of the functions that you have. One, you'll be able to now employ persons from the community, right? Secondly, your business is going to be seen as a business that helps the community. You're not going to be targeted. That's why I can tell you, I could go into the BTOM anytime of the day. I film in the BTOM, and there's always an excitement when I come there because what you bring to the community, right? So what you are doing is actually helping your own self in many ways as a business. You understand? And now you also have that extra opportunity to be seen as a social, a social champion in the community. So it's like, okay, we want this business to thrive because, we all eat from there. So it's like, when I go to the BTOM, I never lock my car. I never lock my car. You understand? And I know that everything is in there. I'm going to find it there. So I'm not naive to say that, unfortunate things don't happen. But what I'm saying is that you can now position yourself as a company to be a champion of the community that you're a part of. And there are other things that I'll be very glad to sit down, sometime and talk with you on a one-on-one because, I know we all fighting for time, but definitely you'll have my contact information and I'll have yours, and we could share some ideas there.
Awesome.
Sure, Stephen. Thank you.
Thanks so much,
okay,
Mike.
No problem.
Thanks so much, Stephen, for that wonderful introduction here. And I do know we recognize in the chat group that we have lots more questions to pose. And as we do so, I'll invite Lisa just at the end of Stephen's presentation to give her contribution. But Stephen, at this time, let's move to the third objective for our presentation today, which looks at innovation and really speaks to how can we as social entrepreneurs continue to be relevant, continue to be sustainable, continue notwithstanding the amount of challenges that we're facing. How can we use innovation or innovate our social enterprises to remain sustainable and to continue to impact and to have that social change? Tell me your views.
Okay, well, one of the great things about what is happening now is that the world is more connected than ever before, right? And hence Vimanyu is on this particular call right now. There's another project that I'm doing right now, planning to do in India. Now it's physically difficult for me to know what is happening in India right now. I'm not there, I can't see, and I can't just rely on what I'm seeing on the media. But Vimanyu is there, and we can now connect and speak and say, well, all right, this is a good idea, this is a bad idea. We are now connected more than ever. So that is an opportunity for us to do so many things. Remember, companies you would have to beg a company before, right, to have some sort of online purchasing. Now, everybody is coming online with an online component. For the first time in Trinidad, you could go on and buy your groceries, and it's not astronomical. You could order your groceries and pick it up. And those are the things that COVID brought. So you have a lot of innovation that is happening right now that we can take advantage of. Virtual services, something a lot of us as NGOs have best practices, all right? So for instance, let's take just the Social Progress Institute. They have certain best practices that you could share. Right now, this webinar that you have here, that's a form of innovation, because you can now provide information to persons. Look, Maya said he was never exposed to that kind of information before. And that could not have been facilitated had you not taken the initiative and do an online webinar for social entrepreneurship. Now, those are opportunities that Mayas might have been busy before. He might have been on our way to a meeting. He might have been saying, well, I don't have time right now to sit down and listen to a webinar. But COVID has caused everything to slow down and people to stop, look, and listen. And that in itself is a great opportunity for innovation. Because let's say, for instance, you are in health, right? You're a health NGO, right? One of the things that people are very, very conscious now is social distancing. It's about the health of their employees, different things that they could implement. But the information is so scattered and the information is so far, and it's difficult because when you listen to the media and they're using words that you totally don't understand. You as a health NGO or a health social enterprise could come up with COVID packages and let people understand, okay, have a manual, have information. This is the best, stuff for your employees to do. This is the best things to give your employees on lunchtime, certain teas and that kind of stuff that you can now introduce as part of. Now you can't force people to drink tea, but instead of having coffee, right, you might want to have probably a ginger and honey tea as opposed to having coffee, where that builds your resistance. You understand what I'm saying? So there are so many things that you can now implement in this COVID time, because it has changed the way that we look at each other, the way that we work. A lot of companies, if you're looking globally, they're not coming back to those big buildings. I've been working from home for the past 9 or 10 years, right? So it's not an adjustment for me. But when you worked from home before, you will seem as okay, but you don't have a big organization, but you don't have, because you don't have a big building out on the road. You know how much money that you save in rent from not having a building out on the road? You understand what I'm saying? So those are the things that you can now, you can innovate and save costs, because companies now don't have to undergo this large cost of renting. Employees don't have to waste time on the road. When you're working in Port of Spain, if you have to get into Port of Spain for 8 o'clock and you have to leave Arima, you have to leave Arima minutes to 5. That's 3 hours in the road. Where is on a Sunday you can get from Arima to Port of Spain in, let me say, half an hour. Well, I must see this drive a little hard. So let me say 45 minutes. You understand how much time, resources, people have more quality time to spend with their families. And these are the things that we can now innovate and show people, right? And it's an excellent time to start. This is a freebie for any NGO that starts a proposal writing or NGO business, right? Proposal writing, NGO or business. You can make a mint, because proposal writing takes a lot of time from social entrepreneurs. I do proposals, right? And when I have to do proposals and put things together, it takes a lot of time from me. I can't write at that time. I can't create. And that's where my focus should be, right? But instead, I have all this work that I have to do, right, for this proposal. If it is you have a proposal NGO and you can now get funding to do proposals on behalf of the NGO, you can now make a deal with the NGO, because people don't like to, the proof in the pudding is the eating. Everybody could say that I can write a proposal, right? Now, if you've never gotten a grant before, that's no proof to me that you could write a proposal. So the proof is always a proof of concept. When you're working as a social enterprise, it's always a proof of concept. Everybody could sit down behind a computer and type, right? But doing something and actually accomplishing something is something totally different. And in the beginning, I lost thousands and thousands of dollars spending on proposal writers until I had to learn it for myself. And from none of the money that I paid for proposal writing, I got one proposal that was ever able to get funded. I had to go and learn it on my own. And so I'm saying, like, if you were to do that right now, that's a piece of innovation where you could instantly hit a jackpot. Because I'm guarantee you, if there are social entrepreneurs on this line right now, they are aching for a proper proposal right? Now, what we get often is proposal writing training, which again takes more time. So you end up chief cook and bottle washer. So that's some of the innovation that we could use in this time. And just some quick takeaways that I want to leave with you is to plan your work and work your plan, right? And rework your plan. In the times when it is, you have things that will come up unexpected, like COVID was not part of any of our plan. But even though it was not part of our plan, we have to work with it and make the best of it, right? People are now, because COVID, I might have put out that podcast before, right? And nobody would have listened to it because everybody busy. Now I put on the podcast and everybody writing me, Stephen, when is the next episode? Stephen, when is the next episode? So those are some opportunities that, again, that will come up. So work your plan. You cannot ask anyone something that they don't know they want, right? Coming back again to the proof of concept. Nobody knew that they wanted a cell phone until they had one and started to see the convenience of it, right? Everybody had a home phone. Now I'm sure that if I ask on this call, anybody who has a home phone, we would get very, very little home phones and probably persons having 2 and 3 cell phones. You understand? But nobody knew that they wanted a cell phone. If I had said that 20 years ago, that would be ludicrous. That people have 2 phones in their hand walking around, but they didn't know, right? So that's the thing. Sometimes we as social entrepreneurs fail to expose persons to information that they don't know they want, right? And so that is something that I would encourage you to work on, because you are an expert in your field. You are an expert in whatever you do, right? If it's health, if it's housing, you're an expert in that. I wouldn't know, but you would know. So let people know, that things that they don't know they want. The other thing is quality people are key in the way you run your organization and the type of assistance you attract, right? Now, this is really important because I'm a stickler for results. If it is we don't get results, then it makes no sense, right? Yes, you may have to tweak things, you have to think, but it cannot be a public relations exercise. So one of the first things is that you have to understand that when it is you enter social enterprise, it's not just, I'm doing something I'm just doing a piece of good. There's no piece of anything, right? Because as I said before, you have to be more innovative than the entrepreneur because you have less resources. You have to be thrifty, right? And very profitable. So when you get money to do one project, you have to be able to stretch that money to do 3, to show people, look, listen, this is what I am able to accomplish, right? And my last thing is, and part of that is quality people are attracted to quality systems. Have a system in place. Even if you are the only person working in that system, you must still have a system. So you have a time dedicated to do your administrative, your executive, and your creative, all right? You must have that system in place. And the last thing I want to leave with you is treat people fairly. Everybody wants recognition. Everybody wants remuneration, right? It is unfair if we are partnering as social enterprises that you have your name out because you think you're the bigger NGO, right? And then you have your name out, you get the funding, right? And I get nothing, right? That's an unfair relationship, and nobody is going to thrive in that. So I'll give that simple example, all right? Somebody might be into the health industry, right? I am into theater. Now we want to do something where we want to teach persons to be healthy, right? Now we can work together on having a COVID campaign on the different foods that you can eat while during this time to build your resistance or whatever the case might be, right? But it's unfair if it is you have the funding, you don't pay me, you don't even say, well, services were supplied by Steve Medwards Productions. No, this is a collaboration, right? And this is one of the things that I want to encourage us, that this is not just talk. After we have these emails, right? We have about 40 participants. We'd want to, if you didn't register with the email, we're asking that you put your email and your contact information as a message in right now, so that we can contact you after, so we can have a database of persons who might need services, who might need different things, that we could work together in tandem, right? And so, guys, that's really it for me for right now. I know Nomala will open to questions. I really want to thank you for listening.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you so much for sharing this and making this a very rich, driven webinar, the inaugural webinar for Social Progress Institute, dedicated for social entrepreneurs, social progress champions. And for those that are joining with us, all 40 participants, want to invite you to complete the feedback form that has been shared with you, posted by one of our advisors, Surin Maharaj. Thank you for that. And as we get into, before we open up for discussion, just to summarize in terms of the social enterprise, for us to really remember that a social enterprise, we look at the profits and we invest the profits for advancing the social good, as opposed to dividing and sharing it out in terms of shareholders' interests. And to apply, to remember that it is an enterprise. You've got to work the entrepreneurial principles to ensure that it's a sustainable business in your 4 Ps, your 4 Cs, and having your institutional strengthening activities going on. But as well to remember that what drives social enterprises, like any other enterprise, it's the area of innovation. Innovation to increase and to have greater social impact. And look at innovation. Stephen Edwards, he shared some ways of innovating from his perspective, from his enterprise. But remember, your social enterprise may be different from his, and therefore look at ways, examine ways that you can innovate. Maybe it's in your value chain, maybe it's in your procedures, your policies, or maybe it's in your products and services. And as we move from the presentation, and I know the chat group has been lighting up, let me invite you to share and to open up the forum now for the discussion. And I know Lisa has been waiting to post her contribution as well as Luke. And thereafter, we will have it moving forward. So, Lisa.
Hi, I'm not sure if this Lisa you're talking about.
I have Lisa. Let me just go back into the, wow, it's a, no.
Yeah, no, I wanted to just commend, which I did privately in the end because of the time running out, Stephen, for all that he's done and also doing, and for everything he said. I thought after being quite junior in the organization that I am with, which is Dyslexia Association, I thought, gosh, how I wish the CEO and all the board could hear this. So while I'm interested in the slideshow, I think what he said had a lot of value, and if it is being recorded and can be linked, I would appreciate that a lot.
Thanks,
Okay, great.
Certainly it is recorded, and yeah, Stephen will be sharing the link as well, the presentation with everyone.
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks, and all the best.
Thank you so much, Lisa. Thanks, I appreciate it.
Are there anyone who's for further contributions?
All right. Well, I guess either I did a really good job or a really bad job. So,
you didn't do a bad job, Stephen. This is Ladi Franklin here.
Hi, Ladi.
It was extremely informative. I've been hearing about you. I'm glad to have met you and seen you, at least in camera. I think this was a great presentation. And I want to
thank you so much, Ladi.
Yeah, and I want to say thank you, Nomala. You are actually very innovative in what you're doing here, and I hope that this goes much bigger than this, where we have a platform where persons interested in the social and enterprise ecosystem can come together. My question, I have a question where, Stephen, you were saying that social entrepreneurs should not see it as a part-time thing. You know, I think, do you think that this comes from the perception that, listen, I'm running a full-time business here, right? A for-profit business, right? And I am just using a portion of my business and my time to be able to address a social cause. Do you think that that's where that type of perception may come from? Because you still have to run a business full-time.
Well, you see, that's the thing. For me, right, I would say that it comes from a perception of that people don't connect the dots of what you do. All right. So,
Right.
for instance, you see the value of a doctor when you get sick, right?
Yeah, right.
You don't see the value of somebody who's advising you on health when you're healthy all the time. But that person is actually maintaining you for so much. You understand what I'm saying? So let's say, for instance, you have 5 years that you haven't had, you weren't sick because you're trying this new medicine or tea or whatever the case might be, right? You say, well, you know, I mean, things have been good, so, you know, it's all right. You take that person who would give you that advice and that maintenance, you know, I mean, for granted. But the minute you get pain, you're run by the doctor and you're willing to pay him, right? Whereas the person who has been keeping you healthy all these years, you know what I mean? And it's like a Caribbean thing, yeah? I have found it to be more or less like it's a Caribbean cultural thing that we do, whereas we don't treat things unless it's a problem. We're not very preventative. We always, so for instance, for me, crime prevention is much more important than crime detection. If I prevent all the crime, then there's no use for police, there's no use for prison officers, right? And persons can now be contributable members of society. But if you look at the amount of money spent in crime prevention, right, as opposed to crime detection and suppression, the police can't prevent crime. They could detect and they could suppress, but crime starts in the mind. So if you change somebody's mind from having done the crime altogether, then to me, right, you have done the biggest part of the job. But we don't see it that way. We always see it as when we have a problem, then we will tend to it. And that's the reason why NGOs and social enterprises are often seen as, you know what I mean, not very important. But trust me, that same business, let something go bad, and you need to now put measures in place. You'll see how expensive it becomes. If you have to go to the doctor now, or you have to take a surgery, right, for some illness that you could have prevented by just taking garlic every day, let's say for example, right, you have to go and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars now on surgery. You bet your bottom dollar you see the importance of that preventative measure. And I think that's it, is that people see it as not as important because there is no problem. But the reason there is no problem is because of you. It's because of what you would have put in place as a social entrepreneur.
So, Stephen, I just
Make
want to
sense?
add to what you're saying.
So,
to add to Larry's question, is that the research for the Caribbean region from the GEM Social, the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor, social entrepreneurship research that was done for the Caribbean region do in fact state that the social enterprise is one of the reasons the report was leading why we are, yes, we do have social entrepreneurship in the region, but the social entrepreneur activity is low. And one of the reasons they were stating is that primarily because social persons that are in charge of social entrepreneurs do not see it as a full-time position. So they are in it with managerial, they see themselves as a manager more in their commercial enterprise as opposed to seeing it seeing themselves as a manager full-time in their social enterprise, or devoting more
Right.
time in their social enterprise. There's a high percentage of volunteers versus investing in and looking at putting in the talent within the organizations. And therefore it was saying, coming back to your question, to say that yes, there is that perception that it is seen more on a part-time basis. But hey, as Stephen said, if you're looking at entering into the area of social enterprises, see it as devote that time and attention to really building that business as you would any other business that you're in charge of.
And one of the other things too is that there's nothing stopping a social enterprise from doing I want to say, for competing at a corporate level. For instance, I do animation, I do campaigns, all right? I do voiceover services. All that is part of the NGO that I do. But when I have to compete, I'm competing against the best companies in the Caribbean who have, with hands down, much more resources than I do, but I'm determined. And one of the things is that because I have learned how to do the I've done it so many times, you know what I mean, because I've been denied sometimes for so long with resources. I know how to do the things faster, I know how to do it quicker, I know how to, you understand? And those things I document. So I'm now able to provide a much higher service for a lower cost in a quicker time. Right? And there's nothing stopping you from a social enterprise in engaging to, let's say, go for a government contract. I mean, provided that it's fair, right? There's nothing stopping you from doing that. You understand? So as a social enterprise, again, you have to now think of what do I have that is better than what is out there? You understand? And once you can do that, you can now compete with corporate entities at a very high level. So it's not necessarily that, again, that you have to do it one time. And it might be better sometimes if you restructure your organization as a social enterprise, right? And get funding to do certain things, right? And still operate the business within it. I'll give you a simple example, and I'll try to be short. I do theater, right? I do animation, I do television production, right? But I do it under the NGO, right? There are other advertising agencies that will compete for the same jobs that I go for, right? But when I do get that funding, I am able to now use that within my NGO. You understand what I'm saying? So it is always better for me, right, to do it from the NGO standpoint as opposed to do it for the company standpoint. And more, if I am helping the society, funding is easier for me to access as opposed to a for-profit business, which might be doing the exact same thing. But in addition to what we are doing, I might now recruit persons from a vulnerable community. I might now train persons from a vulnerable community. You have to recruit and you have to train anyway. So if you're going to do that anyway, you might as well do it in a social capacity. You know, so that's just my little humble 2 cents on it.
Thanks, Stephen. Thanks, Laddie. If we can take maybe 1 or 2 more contributions, and as we wait on someone to come on for their contributions, just want to remind social progress champions that have joined us today to complete the feedback. Let me just go back to it. The link that's right there on the screen that's been posted on the chat group to please no more than 2 minutes. It will take you to complete the feedback. And from it, we would like to really have an understanding as to what else we can, the services that we can provide for you. Next month, We've already geared up for next month in the next webinar along the social entrepreneur webinar series. Remember, it's a series, and we're very fortunate to have with us Ms. Lara Quentrell Thomas, and she'll be talking on the power of strategic partnerships for social entrepreneurs and the value of these partnerships. And Lara herself is a phenomenal partnership person. She believes in the world of partnerships to make things happen, especially for NGOs, CBOs, and those that are in our place and space, social progress champions. She currently serves on multiple boards, including many NGOs across Trinidad and Tobago. In her professional capacity, she is the founder of Regency Recruitment that provides many HR management services and experiences. She has over 25 years of experience as an entrepreneur. So it's July 2nd, 2020, between 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. I'm inviting you to please mark that date in your calendar and to begin emailing me so that we can get the registrations organized. While I'm on the topic of the registration, for those that jumped on to the webinar, we appreciate your view. Thanking you for jumping onto the webinar, but just send me an email at socialprogressinst@gmail.com, as we'd like to keep you on our database to send you further updates from the Social Progress Institute. And as we close the inaugural webinar today, I want to express my thanks to our key presenter, Stephen. Fantastic job, kudos, yay. Maya,
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for that in there. And to say thank you so much for sharing your pearls of wisdom with us in this inaugural webinar for the Social Progress Institute. I'm sure you all will agree with me that we've just begun to nip the tip of the iceberg, touch the tip of it, and delving into the world of social entrepreneurship. And you've left us with a better understanding of social entrepreneurship, social enterprise, who we are, clarifying certain myths, and as well in terms of how important it was to constantly be on this road of innovation. And to all my social progress champions who have joined us today, I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you for making this a very robust first webinar series and staying on for the entire period for it. Certainly, thank you very much for logging on very promptly at 1 p.m. and a little bit before for a very prompt start. I commend you on that for carving out that time and for being with us for the entire duration. And I do hope that this is the beginning of a Caribbean social entrepreneurial forum and hub for us.
Definitely.
Yes,
we definitely going to put some ICT infrastructure in place. So please put your information, because we're going to have a database of resources available for information and things that you might be, more information that you might want, or actual things if you want to have an event or that kind of stuff, you know what I mean, it'll be available there.
Yes. And so for us to learn and to grow with each other together. And I do hope through this webinar and the other online services and events that are provided by the Social Progress Institute, that you continue to be part of, and we get to know each other better, and we continue to develop each other in this place of social entrepreneurship. So I'm inviting you to register today to mark that in your calendar for the next webinar on the power of strategic partnerships, July 2nd, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. by Lara Quentrell Thomas. And you can certainly contact me at 689-6539. For those that are regional, please remember the country code 868 and the email address that's on it. So I'm going to stop sharing the screen for 1 minute and hand it over to Stephen for his final kudos.
All right, guys. Thank you so very, very much. I know I didn't know, what to expect today. And, you know, to have persons from all over the world, you know, coming on board, I feel very, very honored to have been able to, you know, address you guys, and feel free to reach out to me. I think my email address would probably be on one of these slides, but if not, I have an email address and I will reach out to everyone. And I just want to say thank you so much for the opportunity. I hope that we can work together in the future, you know what I mean? Because as I said, I am not just one of those persons who will come and talk. I want to see progress happen. So I really, really thank you guys for making the time to come out and hear what I had to say. I hope it made sense, and thank you. God bless you, and good day.
Okay, and I'm just sharing the screen for the final part of everything, just to reveal to you the Social Progress Institute website, which will be shared with you. And there are lots of resources that are being placed on the Social Progress website. Certainly you can, there are videos that are being posted, lots more contact and details that are going to be on the website. You can look on to the contact page where you would see what's being posted for the Social Progress Institute, what's happening, and how you can register and continue to be part of and connected as a family. And as we close, I just want to say that in making a difference, we can do it individually, but certainly it's good for us to join together as social entrepreneurs to deliver greater social impact. And definitely, it's good to be social. Thank you, everyone, for joining.
Thank you.
Thanks, Deborah.
Thank you, Namala. It was excellent. I'm happy that I was able to join. And those that I invited, I saw them online. So thank you.
Thanks, Gia.
Thank you. Excellent session. Looking forward to the next one. Have a blessed day. Bye.
Blessings to you.
Hello, thanks Nirmala for the invite.
Thanks, Neil. It's a pleasure. All the way from Guyana. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.